All right, guys. Well, if you guys haven't caught the previous videos, I definitely would recommend getting caught up. This is all these numbers here pertaining to our most recent tractor trailer load that we got. And that was a 35-ton load, 35.01 tons to be exact. And the previous video definitely had a lot of useful information that would benefit you to know prior to watching this video. And then the prior videos to that were all about processing that load into a finished product, getting it to the finished drying location and ready to sell. So those are important videos to watch to make all this make sense. And this video is going to be focusing more on seeing what we can, income wise, what we can get out of the wood. And we sell it in many different ways. We are just talking about oak here, whether it be kiln dried, seasoned, our kind of our waste product called stove wood, we call it. So we'll kind of dive into all those figures throughout this video, and we've got, we've run a bunch of numbers, and then we'll kind of towards the end of the video get into, our delivery costs, because that's something I didn't get into in the previously. It was more about just the direct costs of what it costs to process that load into a finished product, and then how much wood we yielded from that. And I'll go ahead and review that real quick after this quick intro. And then it also went into the equipment costs involved. That was the video right before this, and those are important things to think about too when you're factoring what we're selling the product for, because it is, some of these numbers are and can be almost too good to be true. And one thing we definitely want to get across is the fact that we know that not all areas can support what the type of business that we're running right here. You've got to have the right market, and you've also got to market to the right people. You have to find the right market. It doesn't necessarily find you. And a lot of that is also an extra cost. If we were just posting on Facebook Marketplace right here in our local area, we certainly couldn't sell wood at the numbers that I'm about to share with you. So keep that in mind. I know I hear a lot of guys say that my area won't support anything like that, and our direct area it won't either. You've got to find the market and find the people that value a better product, value a better service, and value something that's just different than what other guys are bringing. And then you've also got to you've got to do it efficiently too. We try to everything that we do, we're thinking about efficiency. So that's why we've evolved, and that's why we target that market too. We're trying to be as efficient and try to become profitable at this. Everyone struggles, I think, when it comes to building a firewood business, and we're no different. We have definitely, but we've evolved to where we are today, and it definitely wasn't an overnight thing.
Yeah, in a nutshell, this video is really going to cover our sales of the firewood, and what we sell it for, and in different ways we sell it, and we are going to go through some other costs as well when it comes to the delivery process. We just want to try to get across to you guys this is not a how-to on a firewood business. We're not trying to say this is the only way that you should run a firewood business, or the only price you should sell firewood for, but it's just the way that we do it. And we hope it helps anybody out there that is looking to get into this business, or just interested in the numbers that we've come up with. And throughout the video, if we ever say this load, we're obviously referring to the load of firewood that that Matt processed in previous videos. So just to be clear on that, we may not always clarify that, but we're talking about that 35-ton tractor trailer load of logs we got that we've processed, and now we're running the numbers on that particular load. Obviously this isn't there's not an exact science to this. Each load we get is a little different. Each load weighs a little different. The logs may have been cut you know, at a different time, and we get more yield out of a certain weight on other loads. So there's not an exact science to this, but and we obviously, you know, we probably run 100 tractor trailer loads a year, or maybe not that many, but this isn't like the only firewood we're producing. It's just a small snapshot of what we do.
Yeah, so let's get into just a quick little recap then of the last video. I mean, you know, I went into all the equipment costs involved, and we were just a little over $500,000 in equipment. And I do, after looking back, there's definitely a few pieces that I didn't put in here. You know, we could obviously get another skid steer on this list if we wanted to, because I do realize that I think I used a T190 to load with, and then I used the S330 to fill baskets with and move baskets, and that's typical. That's usually what I do. And I also didn't include a bucket, you know, that Vernig 84-inch bucket. You know, that thing comes at a cost of a few $1,000s, and then the pallet forks, and that comes at, you know, $1,000-ish. And, you know, so I mean, this is just a rough estimate of the equipment costs.
Also didn't add the delivery trailer or the truck that's used.
Yeah.
This is really just equipment cost to produce the firewood and get it to the stage of seasoning or kiln drying.
Yeah, I wanted to keep those delivery costs as a separate number, and I'm going to get into that later in the video so that we can kind of see what comes out of, you know, each delivery route roughly. Now, I mean, you know, these numbers are, it's as close as we can get, you know. So you know, we're at, you know, that load, and then again we're at 35.01 ton load, and it costs $1,505 just for those logs, and that was a 100% oak load, and it was as green as they could get. You know, that was they hadn't been sitting long, and I do know that for sure. So I mean, that was a heavy load. We don't get tractor trailers that weigh that much that often here, so this is a good load to test. I mean, one, because it was 100% oak. That is nice. We don't have to sort out any species and guess how much that weighed. It was all factored into these numbers, and it yielded about 11.2 finished cords of wood. And so that's going to be an important number to remember throughout the video. And it took roughly 11 hours for us to process that wood, and then also, you know, not just to process it. It only took a little shy of 5, about 4 hours and 45 minutes for myself, one man, to process it into that finished wood. But then to get the resplitting finished, you know, fill the baskets, get the baskets ready to stack, and then get them in their final stacking, you know, drying location, took approximately 11 hours to complete. So that's another important number there. But you know, I went into a lot of that in detail in the previous video. I just wanted to hit on that real quick so that you guys knew what that load yielded.
And again, throughout this video, you know, the load was 100% oak, so we're going to be going through a lot of pricing that relates to oak firewood. We also sell hickory and cherry that we do charge a little bit more for. You know, if anybody wants to know our exact pricing and, you know, that anything that's not included in this video, you can go to our website and see what we're charging. But as you know, as far as this video is concerned, we're going to be referring to oak pricing when it comes to seasoned or kiln dried firewood.
What I want to do first, I want to get into just best case scenarios. What can we sell this load for if it were all sold as kiln dried oak firewood in the smallest increment that we sell it in, delivered? And, you know, delivery definitely adds to the cost. I mean, for our customer as well as for us, of course. But if you break this stuff down, you know, it's 11.2 cords. If you break it down, we sell it, the smallest increment is a half a face cord. And if you were to break it down into all half face cord quantities, kiln dried, stacked where the customer needs it, we would be at $23,520 for that entire load.
Yeah, that sounds great to turn $1,500 of logs into $23,000, but yeah, you know, unfortunately, it's not quite that simple. There's a lot that goes into that, and like Matt said, that's you know, assuming we sold it all as half face cords of kiln dried oak, which obviously we're not going to do.
We'll never sell like an entire, you know, even just one delivery route in that method. We don't sell nearly as much kiln dried oak as we do seasoned oak, and we'll get into that here in a minute. You know, our averages of what we sell, we don't really have a concrete number on, but we do have a good estimation on what we anticipate type of wood to be sold, you know, type and quantity, you know, the combination of both of those being all oak, of course, not mixing in any other species. We've got to simplify it somewhat, and it helps to really get these numbers right. So if we were to sell seasoned oak in a face cord quantity, which we get $400 per face cord, that's delivered, stacked exactly where the customer wants it, cleaned up, you know, that goes for every delivery that we do. I mean, if we're stacking it, we're putting it right where the customer needs it, and we're cleaning up after ourselves like we were never even there. So just take that into consideration as well every single time we deliver. So at $400 a face cord, we would be looking at $13,440, and that is a more realistic number of, you know, close to an average, you know, average amount that we're going to get for that quantity of wood of the 11.2 cords. You know, then we get into, if you want to get into some other numbers, we might as well go over a few of them. We drop the wood in the customer's driveway in a face cord increment, and we decrease the price to $330 per face cord to do that, bringing the total then to $11,088 if you were to do the entire load that way. That's how we're, you know, that's how we're quantifying all these numbers.
That would be basically the cheapest way we would possibly deliver this 11.2 cords. Would be the seasoned oak dropped in the driveway, not stacked. $11,088.
Yep. And then if you were to take that and do the same thing, the same quantity of wood, and you just kiln dry it, and we do it in the same fashion, dropped in the driveway, you know, we do $550 for that, so it's $18,480 to do that quantity face cord dropped in the driveway. So I mean, kiln drying it in our area definitely adds a good bit to the value, but it adds a whole lot to our cost as well. You know, we have the cost of the kiln, of course, the cost to run the kiln, the cost to fill the kiln, you know, the cost to fill the kiln baskets, the cost to take the wood out of the kiln, then to, you know, bring it over to its final stacking location, or put it into the truck, however we're doing that. Now what I'm getting at here, I want to get into kiln dried oak if we stack it in full face cord increments where we would come out. And so we do that for $600, you know, stacked where the customer wants it, again, cleaned up, you know, the whole 9 yards. We're at $20,160 if you did that entire load that way. You know, coming from the delivered prices, I want to just go straight into our delivery costs. And you know, typically when we deliver, we don't go out, we definitely don't just go out with one delivery like a lot of people do. We try to break it into, you know, as many stops as we can on our route, and we also try to make our route make the best logistical sense this time of year, or in the, you know, in the kind of off seasons, which, you know, is a good bit of the year, especially here in Georgia. We don't get that like campfire rush season or any of that. It's really just for people that, you know, I mean, a lot of people do burn outside, don't get me wrong, but a lot of people burn in their homes. We have, you know, a definite window where we're super busy, and then a slower part of the year. But we deliver approximately 3 cords per route, maybe a little bit more than that, but we're gonna stick to 3 full cords per route for this video purposes. So that gets you to 3.7 routes for this 11.2 cords.
A typical route for us usually will be divided between
8 to 13 or so, you know.
8 to 13, so that, you know, we're not going to one house and dropping 3 cords the way we sell firewood. So the truck and trailer will load out in the morning. It will consist of 8 to 13 orders on that truck, and they'll leave the shop and not return until those 8 to 13 orders have been fulfilled.
You know, even prior to these delivery costs, there's some office work involved, of course, that comes at a cost in order to get everything all lined up and ready for the route to be made, and we have some logistical software that we use that is both for our benefit as well as the customer's benefit, that's not factored into this at all. But I wanted to get into the direct delivery expenses that we incur, and we really haven't gone into detail of how we deliver the wood, and a lot of the work gets done here. We end up racking out all the wood prior to delivery and getting it ready for delivery. It's a way of us, not having to do so much at the customer's home. We're able to do some quality control here at the shop. Make sure that the wood that we're putting out meets our expectations, and we're able to call out what we don't want to make it to the end customer.
This method also allows us to really control exactly the quantity of wood each customer gets, and it ensures that they get exactly what they ordered, whether it was a half a face cord or a face cord. There's no guesswork for the delivery guys. They know if the customer ordered a half a face cord that they use 2 racks, and that customer will get exactly a 4x4 stack of firewood. For the face cords, they get exactly a 4x8 stack. So we're not just going and filling up a rack a customer has and calling it what they think it is. They're getting exactly their correct amount for a face cord and a half a face cord.
Yeah, it definitely takes a lot of the guesswork out of it, and that has been extremely beneficial for us. Not having any callbacks on we didn't get what we ordered and all that kind of stuff, because no matter how many times you do it, whoever you have out there doing it, a newer guy or something, they can make mistakes. So a good bit of the cost, we rack the wood here on site, so there's a little bit of labor involved in that. A typical route is about 30 racks in our trailer. That's what we'll fit in the trailer, and then we'll also throw some loose wood in the truck bed for those dropped orders that we spoke about just a moment ago. So racking the wood out, to fill 30 racks, we estimate about $5 a rack is what it costs us. So about $150 to get that load racked out here on site. And then we get into loading the truck and trailer. So like right before delivery, actually taking it out on delivery. And I factored 1.5 man hours to get that done. It takes about 45 minutes usually, maybe a little bit less than that, but I want to err on our side at least a little bit there just to be safe. So that I factored at $45. And then I've got average fuel consumption, which fuel nowadays is just absolutely through the roof. I've got that at $100 per route, and I mean that's obviously going to vary depending on the route density and that kind of thing. And like I say, this time of year the routes can get kind of widespread. If you're getting, as you can imagine, if you're getting a lot more orders, you can try to group them on certain days to make the density of the route a little bit closer, and we definitely try to do that as best we can. And then the actual route itself, the driving around, once everything's loaded out and they're away from the shop, I factored about 15 man hours, because we've always got 2 guys in the truck. 15 man hours, so about $450 is what I've got factored for that. And then I went ahead and got into some vehicle expenses, including insurance as well. And what I've got all these numbers, these next couple numbers factored on is based on 80 routes per year. Y'all may think that's not very much, or you may think that's a lot. This is just for one truck. Sometimes we do in the busy season run 2 routes in a day. But for this purposes and to be able to factor these numbers, it's easiest just to look at one truck, of course. And we're looking at 80 routes per year. And I factored insurance at $3,600 per year. So that brings it to, and I think that might be a little bit high. I didn't actually get our insurance policy and look into it. I mean, I just did a $300 per month, which I know that's probably a good bit high, but we're at $45 per route for insurance. I went ahead and did a vehicle repair, maintenance, and replacement line item here, and I'm basing our vehicle at about $60,000. We do use right now primarily we're using an F350 gas motor, 4-wheel drive, single cab with a 12-foot dump bed. So the replacement for that vehicle, based on, and that's if you were to use this vehicle for only this purpose all year long, which currently we don't. Currently we're using it for other purposes as well throughout the year. But if you were to just use it for firewood and just use it for these 80 routes per year, year after year, I did a 5-year replacement for it at 80 routes a year, and we're at $150 per route. And that's just the replacement cost of the vehicle. And granted, that's not putting any value on the vehicle at the end of that lifetime of the vehicle. Of course, you'd be able to sell it for something and recoup some of that cost, but we're just going to say it's worth $0, just for our number's sake. I did $20 per route for maintenance and repairs, which is probably not quite enough. It's $1,600 per year. You know, you probably need a little bit more than that, but that's what we're doing for this video. And then we'll get into our trailer that we use. And if you guys have seen previous videos, we've shown that trailer. I've done a video just doing a little bit of repair work on that trailer. It's an enclosed trailer.
It's a 7x14 trailer.
7x14 enclosed trailer with 7K axles. It's a good trailer, and it cost about $15,000 when we bought it. And again, I did the same 5-year replacement based on 80 routes per year on that. I kind of just grouped it all into repairs and maintenance all in one number at about $45 per route on that. And that trailer is exclusively used for firewood deliveries. And I would not anticipate that trailer lasting more than 5 years for us. I don't even know if we're going to truly get 5 years out of that trailer. The maintenance and repair costs are pretty minimal. You know, I didn't put a big number for that. It's mainly just tires and brakes. The majority of it's the replacement cost, which is around $38 per route on that. And I feel like that is a pretty accurate number. It may even need to be a little bit increased because I don't know that trailer, doing what we do with it, will even last 5 years. If you've seen the previous video, you may agree with me. Then we'll get into some of our stuff that the carts that we use the hand trucks that we use to move the firewood into its final destination for our customers, whether it be upstairs, downstairs, around their house, into their backyard. It doesn't matter. We get it where they need it, and we have invested pretty heavily in some equipment to do that. We've got a stair climbing hand truck that'll go up and down stairs with these racks that we bring to customers.
We should add here that we do charge an extra fee on top of the pricing we're going over here if the firewood does have to go up or downstairs. So that would offset a little bit of this cost.
And then we've got that stair climbing hand truck, and then we've also got a powered hand truck that will bring these racks pretty much anywhere. If you could get a wheelbarrow to it, these carts will get there. And those come at a cost of about $10,000 if you know combined. So the replacement value of those, you know, at a 5-year replacement, 80 routes a year, we're at $25 a route. There's really not much maintenance or repairs that are going to be needed. Very minimal anyways, let's put it that way. So then our total cost for each route, which is it seems like a very high number, but I think it's a pretty realistic number in all honesty. I think a few of these things are high. I think our labor may actually be low. But it's fairly realistic numbers, $1,030 per route. We're just going to say 3 cords per route. And so if you divide that 11.2 by the 3 cords, we're at 3.7 routes to deliver that whole tractor trailer load. And so that brings our delivery costs alone for that tractor trailer load at $3,811. And that, in all honesty, is eye-opening for us. I don't think we've never sat down and really crunched the numbers on this. It's very beneficial for us to do it, and it should be. I hope you guys feel the same. I mean, you know, it really makes you rethink what you're selling your firewood for. I mean, I think that the numbers that we're at, we're doing pretty well, but some people sell it for not enough. Let me just be honest. It'd be really hard to sell it for a lot less than we are, and I know there's plenty of guys locally that aren't targeting the same market that we are.
Most people that are delivering firewood and stacking it for a customer and giving them that service along with the firewood itself are not charging enough to really make it a business. But as we go through all of this, you know, keep in mind we're talking about direct costs here involved with delivering firewood and not overhead costs, which would be this building we're sitting in and the electricity and the insurance associated with the property, and there's a lot that goes into overhead, you know, in addition to these direct operating costs.
And of course, developing the site to get it to the point to where we can produce the wood here and store the wood in the way that we do, and you know, of course, all the costs of the IBC totes and everything. You know, it's just cost after cost to get to to where we are. But
we know this is definitely a lot of information, all at once, and I like to kind of summarize things as we've gone over them. And basically where we're at now is we bought a log load for $1,500 roughly, and that firewood we made with it, we sell for between $14,000 to $18,000, somewhere in that range. And there's obviously a lot of cost that comes out of that, the difference in $1,500 and $15,000.
One thing that I definitely want to touch on now that he's saying that is, we went ahead and took like an average how we typically would sell that load of logs, and this is based on delivery. Before I get into what we sell it for picked up or anything, I want to show you guys kind of how we typically sell it delivered, and we broke it down by percentages, and our highest percentage of sales is definitely our standard seasoned face cord stacked. That's how we sell the majority of our wood, and I broke it down into percentages, and we put a 75% on that, which I think is pretty accurate. So out of 11.2 cords, we're talking 8.4 cords is sold in that fashion. And again, here we're just talking about oak. Our second most popular way is going to be our seasoned half face cord stacked, and then our seasoned face cord dropped. Those are both about 5% each. And then we got 5% kiln dried oak face cord stacked, and then we put 4% for the half face cord of kiln dried oak stacked, and then we got 3% for the kiln dried face cord dropped, and then 3% for our stove wood. If you add all these numbers up, I did the math on everything. If you add all these numbers up, if you were to sell the load in that fashion exactly, you'd be at $14,085. And I believe that is close to our average income for an 11.2 cord load or a 35-ton load.
So that'd be an average sales number for this 11.2 cords, be about $14,000.
That's if it's all delivered.
All right, guys, as you can probably notice, Matt's no longer here with me. It is the next day, and basically as we were editing this video, we realized there's a little bit of information we left out regarding gross profit on this load of firewood if we were to deliver it to the customer. So pretty interesting story. The reason Matt's not with me, the landscape crew was out on a job, and they ended up flipping our mini skid steer on a hillside. So there's never a dull moment here. So Matt's out trying to deal with that. Y'all might see a video on that at a later date. Back to firewood. So from that 11.2 cords of oak, we came up with that total sales number of $14,085.90 to be exact. This is where we predict our gross profit to be from that. You deduct the $1,505 for the logs themselves. We came up with a production cost, which would be basically the cost to turn the logs into firewood and get them, to their drying location, and that cost for production came to $2,129.50. That's primarily made up of labor, fuel consumption, and some, maintenance and repairs of the production equipment, things of that nature. The delivery costs, as we said earlier, $3,811 to deliver all of this product to the customer, and that leaves a gross profit of $6,640.40 left from this load that we would sell for roughly $14,000. So again, these are rough numbers, and these are our numbers. They're not going to apply to every firewood business, obviously. And one thing that we're not mentioning here is overhead. So this $6,640 out of the 11 cords does not go into our pockets. This is the fun part about turning a hobby into a real business. You have overhead, and it really adds up as you grow. So it costs us somewhere between $8,000 to $9,000 per month just to keep this business going. And there's a lot that goes into that. You know, utilities, mortgage, insurance. You know, we have workers' comp, we have payroll expenses, taxes. Obviously, there's just an endless list that can fall under overhead, and it comes down to $8,000 to $9,000 a month for our firewood business alone. So technically, you know, we have to run about 4 full delivery routes per month just to start making any real profit. So figured we'd mention that, and now we're going to get back into the original video, where we go into breakdown if the firewood were to be picked up at our yard here.
We'll transition out of the delivery mindset now and look at what we're getting if we have everything picked up here, which is where our margins get tighter. And you know,
and this isn't, I wouldn't call it worst case scenario, because this is
no.
You know, if people come pick up wood here, which takes a ton of liability and risk off of our shoulders. It's a cheaper way to buy firewood from us, obviously, but we have a lot less cost involved if somebody pulls up here and we load their truck bed. So the margins are probably similar, even though the sales numbers will be lower.
In all honesty, if we could sell every stick that we produce picked up here at the yard, I think we would do well. We sell it here, seasoned oak, picked up loosely. We sell it by the skid steer bucket. So we have a few different size buckets that we use, and really the buckets, volume wise, all end up being about $600 per cord. The reason we have a few different size buckets is just because people come with, you know, they'll want you to load a short bed Tacoma, and then someone else will come with a long bed, you know, 3/4 ton or a dump trailer. And, you know, so that's why we have different size buckets, just to accommodate the different size loads that we, you know, trucks that we need to load. But volume wise, like I say, it comes out to about $600 per cord, loosely loaded off of our concrete slab. All of our wood is put on concrete slab so that it's easy to scoop, doesn't get any trash other than, you know, the wood, the actual debris created from the wood with it seasoning and sitting over time, which I know you guys all are familiar with.
That's how we handle 95% of drive-up customers. Is we call it our customer pickup area out there, and it's just, you guys have seen it in previous videos if you've watched, it's just a big pile of wood. It's all oak and it's on a concrete slab, and it makes it easy for us to, you know, scoop it off of the concrete with a skid steer bucket and load it directly into a truck bed or trailer. All of the IBC totes you see on our yard are primarily for drying firewood that's going to be delivered, and rarely does that wood get sold here directly from our yard.
Yeah, we do offer that.
We will get into pricing on IBC totes picked up here, but the vast majority of people that come, we will load with a skid steer bucket directly into their vehicle, and that way it does come out to about $600 per cord.
So I mean, as you can see, I mean, our average delivery is around $14,000, and then if you were to do it just all loaded right here from the yard, you're at $6,700. So I mean, you're cutting it in half, but you are decreasing, you know, you're taking away that almost $4,000 cost that it takes to deliver that wood too. So like he was touching on, you know, the baskets, if we were to, the way that we sell the baskets, we just sell the 275 gallon, and we will rotate those into a truck or trailer or however they're coming with it. We don't sell much of it that way. We try not to, because it just adds a little bit more risk for us loading. There are some people that want it that way.
If the customer just wants the firewood in the basket, you know, rotated into a truck bed or trailer, it really doesn't make any sense. Right. They might as well buy it loosely by the bucket. Yeah. You know, if anybody's going to buy it by the IBC tote or basket here, they should leave the firewood in the basket, which means they pay a $40 core charge for the basket. If they bring us an empty back, they get the $40 back. But that's the only advantage for a customer to buy it that way is so when they get home, they have the firewood in an IBC tote, and if they have a tractor or a skid steer or something of that nature to unload it out of their truck and move it wherever they want, you know, there's an occasional customer that sees value in that, and they'll pay a little more to have that firewood in the basket.
Yeah, and we charge that core charge just because we don't want to have to constantly be replacing baskets. You know, I think at $40 it's okay. We can, you know, find more, but we certainly aren't going to be giving them away. You know, based on that, you know, if you guys saw the previous video, we ended up filling 56 baskets of standard length oak, and at $125 per basket, or that's what we charge if we are just to rotate that basket into someone's truck. So not taking into account that $40 core charge. We're not even thinking about that for these numbers here. That's just the value of the wood that we put in a 275 gallon tote. So if you were to math that out, 56 times 125, we're at $7,000. So it does increase our income slightly by doing it that way, but it definitely costs us more in labor to do it that way, because you got to definitely watch what you're doing and maybe have an extra set of hands available to help make sure we're not damaging anyone's vehicle if we're rotating it in there like that. And then another way that we sell wood here is by the 0.75 cubic foot bag. We sell it either seasoned in those bags, kiln dried in those bags, and surprisingly enough, seasoned we come out pretty well. And I know a lot of guys think that the smaller increments you're gonna make your highest margin, and I mean we do okay on the seasoned. I feel like it's justifiable to do it the way we do it. We sell it in the 0.75 cubic foot bag at $5 each, and everyone can do the math on that. 128 cubic feet is in a cord, so if you do the math, that's 175 of those 0.75 cubic foot bags to make a full cord of wood. And we end up selling that at $5 a piece, so that maths out to $9,520 if you were to sell it all by that bag like that. And I've kind of run the numbers on what an additional cost incurred for us based on our, what we would have in labor plus the cost of the bags, which we pay about 32 cents a bag on those bags. It would add an additional about $400 roughly. To take that number from 6,720 loosely to 9,520, that is definitely worth doing. But we can only sell so much of it in that manner. If we wanted to move a lot of that product and sell it wholesale, our price would obviously have to go down, and then there would be delivery costs incurred as well. And so then I just don't see it being that great of a way, with our business model to sell wood. It's not something we really push. It's just something that we like to offer here. So also another thing that we offer picked up here, we offer kiln dried oak. We sell it by the half face cord.
This is kiln dried oak.
Kiln dried oak picked up by the half face cord here.
So what it is a 275 gallon IBC, but not quite filled to the top. That is a half a face cord. Yep. So we have those stored here in the shop. One thing about our kiln dried wood, it never gets rained on if it rains. It's always indoors. But that half face cord that someone would come here to purchase, off our yard would essentially be an IBC tote, not quite filled to that top rail. Yeah. And that's a half a face cord. Yeah, and
mathing that out to $250, a full cord ends up being about $1,500. So if you were to do that whole load that way, that 11.24 load, we're at $16,800 for that picked up. And that's the only way that we offer it here picked up, is just in half face cord increments. We don't do full face cord or the price break or anything like that. But one thing that I wanted to touch on, we do sell those 0.75 cubic foot bags, the same bag. It's just kiln dried oak instead of seasoned oak, and we sell that at $7 each. And we've come to find out that we need to either increase our price on that, or we need to just quit selling it that way and just do it only seasoned, which is probably the route we'll take. Because if you do the math on that, at 170 bags at $7 each, we're at $13,328. So you're better off buying it in those 0.75 cubic foot bags than you are loosely currently, the way that maths out. But
so that doesn't make sense at all. We don't want
there's no point.
We don't want the better deal to be in
right.
bags.
Yeah, because obviously it comes with more cost for us.
Yeah, so that's something we're going to adjust here.
Yeah.
Now that we know this.
We'll probably just, I mean, and we kind of had speculation of that. It's not like we were completely oblivious to that. We honestly, I remember when we started selling it in kiln dried, it was because it was the end of last season and we didn't have a good quality seasoned product that we wanted to put in bags at our roadside stands. So we started just throwing it in kiln dried in the bags, and priced it at $7, just kind of wanting to keep customers coming, but knew that it wasn't going to be our most profitable product by any means. So
from here on, our bagged wood will be seasoned oak only.
Yeah.
And we just won't offer kiln dried oak in bags, because just to match that, loose loaded price into a truck bed here at our shop, we would need to be somewhere in the range of $10 per bag, and we're right there with like grocery store pricing in our area when we get to that price point. So there's just no point in us doing the kiln dried oak in bags anymore. So guys, in a nutshell, I know that we've thrown a lot of information at you on this video, and there's definitely more information to add to this if you go back and watch some previous videos. But this video is primarily to just share with you guys some of our sales numbers and what we got out of that 35-ton load we did, and really what it equates to is we paid $1,500 roughly for the logs, and we will end up selling that firewood for on average around $14,000. It could be a little more, could be a little less, but
that's if it was all delivered.
That's if it's all delivered. So it probably would be less, because some people do pick up here. The reason our prices are set the way they are is because of the customer experience we're offering, and it's also the market we're in. If you don't have a market for this, and if you're in a market where every customer wants 3 cords of wood and they're heating their house with it, you have a totally different business model than we do. So our customers are just burning for pleasure. We're in Georgia, it doesn't get super cold. A few of them might be using it for heat, but most of it is just for the experience. And there's a lot of people in our market that are willing to pay for the service and the quality that we offer. So for instance, if a customer, they're laying in bed at night at 2 o'clock in the morning and they decide they need some more firewood, they can go on our website and they can order it right there, and pay with a credit card, and we'll call them the next day to schedule their delivery. So it's all about convenience, also the quality of the product. But not only, we'll get more into our delivery process in another video, but we do use a routing software that we pay for, and it allows the customer to track their delivery live as it's coming to them, very much like Amazon would, or in ways even better than Amazon. So there's things like that add value to what we're doing, and that's why we can charge these prices, but it all comes at an expense. So it just depends on your market and what your customers expect. So that kind of touches on the convenience side of it, but then the quality of product is another thing, and the way we deliver the wood allows us to control the quality of the product more than someone that's just running off a processor straight into a truck or on the ground and loading bulk amounts into a truck and dumping it on somebody's driveway. The customer's going to have a bit of a mess to clean up after they move that firewood, and our customers don't experience that. It's clean. There's no bark, there's no debris, there's no dirt or anything like that in the product we deliver. That's just what has worked for us over the years, and it's what goes into these prices we've just shared with you. So
and we just wanted to touch on just kind of like the best case of those, of what it could be sold for, and then about the average of what it could be sold for. We're not trying to portray ourselves as this is the way to do it, the only way to do it, the best way to do it. It's it's just what we're currently doing and what works for us, and we just wanted to kind of show you guys that and share that with y'all. And we hope you guys, you know, benefit from it. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask us, you know, comment. We'd be happy to answer any questions we can and go into anything in further detail. If you guys have any, you know, have any insight and want to learn a little bit more about a particular point that we were, you know, trying to portray in the video. So
anybody that's still watching, we definitely appreciate you watching, and you know, definitely subscribe for more content like this. We're gonna continue to get better at, you know, getting our point across to a camera, but you know, we're an open book really when it comes to the business side of it, and you know, we would be happy to help anyone that's getting into the business or you know, wants any advice. So we appreciate you guys watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.